Okay, we're back from the break officially. So, Tamika,
Yes, Christy.
you're in the hot seat now.
Uh-oh.
So, this inventory that you have that's out there for your business in your lane and your fishing pond that you're at, how do we tap into this secret pile of inventory?
Okay, so it goes back a few years ago.
Should I get comfortable?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, I'm comfortable. Go
But
ahead.
what happens is, since I'm an investor myself, and what I found out a few years back was that helping other people build their portfolio meant that I would continuously have business and not just in Kansas City.
Right.
So think about yourself. If you're an investor and you want returns of 20% or whatever it is, you're not really going to care if that property is in Kansas City,
Right.
if it's in Florida or wherever it is. And so what I do is I scout for investors and then identify projects that will give them the returns that they ask for.
Okay.
And those projects don't all look the same. So an example of that is, like, you met Marvin at one of our previous shows.
I love
So
Marvin.
he oversees,
Yes.
there's an area of Kansas City that there is a subdivision that still hasn't been finished. So what I'll do is talk with the developer of that area and say, well, my investors want to buy 4 of those lots, and then work with the builder, create the plans that are put in place there, and then talk to people like you who may have buyers waiting to buy.
So-
and then I'll negotiate all of those things with my buyer in hand and my investor, and everyone kind of already knows what we're building, how much it's going to cost, and then I don't have to run around as much with
Right, you're just
finding-
connecting.
I'm just connecting.
You're like the love connection for people.
Yeah, and so what I
places.
the
Yeah.
thing that I really want to see happen is more agents do that instead of them all running around the other way. So if people have a real desire to work with investors, because there are so many ways you can do it. So like
Right.
I'm doing that particular project. I'm doing one on a condo. So like you can buy a condo out of foreclosure, which most investors are looking for, spend the money to upgrade it, and then flip it into a much higher priced, condo in that same in that same development.
You know
And
what?
you can do those on multiple times.
I think you should maybe think about teaching a class on that. That would be. Oh wait, you already do.
Actually, we did redo
Yeah.
one, and it's coming to Missouri here shortly, but
it?
it'll be 12 hours. It's a 12-hour course, so it'll be over 2 days. And I'm working on getting it approved for CE at the same
I
time.
was just getting ready to ask, is it CE
Yes,
hours?
it will also be CE so that you can get all your
Cha-ching.
CE hours
Good.
and learn how to work with investors that way. So that's the way, it only made sense for me to do it that way because I, again, didn't like working with the individual sellers and buyers
Right.
at a particular time. Plus, there's a magazine or a book that was put out called Game Changers.
Yes, I have
And
not read that.
so-
Have you read that?
Of course, that's
Yes.
how I knew
What
what
you're
the
talking
market
about.
was going to do.
Okay, gotcha.
If you sit and, if you look and forecast, you can kind of tell what's going to happen in the market, how the market is going to change, what technology is going to do, and those kinds of things. And then that's what makes me valuable to those investors.
So it's like you're the magic 8-ball.
For
Kind
an
of.
investor.
Yeah, yeah,
And
that's
so
good.
I pick up investors all over the country. So, of course, I go train with Think Realty. And so, like, we just did a conference in Dallas, and now we have another one in that's coming up in Southern California. So I'll be doing that.
Okay.
And once I do those particular classes, and there's one called when agents meet investors, and so
Dun, dun,
I
dun,
take them,
dun.
and I
Yeah,
take them through
it's
that,
very
and then I
exciting.
always pick up a few investors who are interested in, having returns, of course, or figuring out a different market they want to be into, or something like that, and that's
Right.
where I find them.
Good deal.
Yeah, and they find me.
I think it's more they find you too.
Well, now they can find me on the cover.
March.
Yes, I'm going to do this the whole month. I'm so happy
And
to be a cover girl. I always wanted to be a cover girl. I just don't understand.
Ding, we got your wish. All right. Okay, so yeah, you're talking a big talk over there, Miss Tamika. All your inventory and blah,
my
blah,
investors.
blah. I know.
Those are my clients. That's who I love. That's the business I love.
I know, but they're not on MLS.
No, most of the properties are not on MLS.
Why? What are you hiding, Tamika?
I'm not hiding. I work with my clients, and I do what's in the best interest of the client.
Right.
So if the client does not want their property listed on MLS, then I explain, here's what's going to happen if it's not, and all those kind of things. And I have to let them know the pluses and the minuses. If they still say, no, we don't want it on MLS, I don't put it on MLS.
Good. That's good. Yeah, you're doing the right thing.
Yeah,
right.
So that's the...
Can you help me and viewers and listeners to understand why you would not want the exposure of the multiple listing service, where that is like, this is how I explain to people, it's like the mothership, right? All information to Realtor.com, Trulia, Zillow, all that is extracted from there.
Well, in the case where my investor is building a brand new property and we already have the buyer,
why would you put it on MLS?
Why would I need to put it on MLS?
The only reason would be for you to pick up people, truthfully. I mean, and put a sign in the yard. Same thing, yeah.
And also for comps for the other agents who may
the key.
Need them, and that's the key. But for my client, there is no real benefit for them to put it on MLS as it would be for you doing a traditional type of listing where you want to see more eyes onto the property and that kind of thing.
Because you've already connected the seller through your network of people. Hey, I've already got you a buyer.
Correct.
Hey, you want to put it on MLS? Why would you do that?
That's what the seller is saying.
Crazy.
Why would I want to have more people walking through the property?
I've already got a buyer. I'm good.
Doing all those kinds of things. I have a buyer in place.
Right.
They've already, the transaction, it's just a matter of time at that point.
So do you have
And 1 year, Christy, just so that you know, I did a total of 220 transactions. I think it was 220 or 218. And none of those were on MLS.
That messes with your numbers, though.
Yeah, well, I'm not trying to count numbers.
I know you're not.
And that's the thing that most people,
but
that's the thing where agents kind of miss it. They are looking at, I want to be in a top 10% or 5%, and that's how their numbers are tracked based on what goes on MLS. And so that's why I sit there and go, people are looking at the wrong things, because if I can close 200 transactions and
never be on MLS.
And they're not on, I'm not the number one agent, I don't really care about that.
But are they on this magazine?
I did what I needed to do for my seller. I made good money. My clients were happy.
That's
I didn't really care about being the number one agent in Kansas City market or whatever it was. That just didn't do it for me.
Right.
So it just goes back to who your client is and them knowing what's happening.
And what I like about what you just said too, because not all agents are in it for the client, they're in it for themselves. Yeah. And what is our goal when we are hired?
That's right.
As a realtor to service that client, there's a fiduciary responsibility that we have, and that is to do what's in their best interest.
That's
and if they say do not put it on MLS, that doesn't mean you go put it on MLS just because you want the numbers.
Right.
You have to do what the client wants you to do.
And you are to explain to them the pluses and the minuses of them not doing so.
That's right.
Just so that they understand. And that's the other reason I work with my investors, because they pretty much know this or that, or they've had experience in the market and that kind of thing. So
tell me, where do we find these lists? I know everyone's asking, gosh, Tamika, this sounds great, all these great investment properties that you have. Do you have hot sheets? Do you have AskTamika.com?
I work with a select group of agents who normally know that this is what I do. So now the secret is out. And but it's mostly,
put that on our Facebook.
Yeah, it's mostly if people know a particular market or we've worked in that area.
Okay.
Then there's normally agents who are familiar with me working on this project or this project, and they'll say, "Hey, do you have anything coming up?" Just like you do in your office. People call you. And, I'm known here for working with investors and developers and saying, okay, well, this project is coming up, or the city of Kansas City, Missouri is going to put $20 million in this neighborhood.
Right.
And so I'll go in and find the investor who wants to invest in that neighborhood and then start working that neighborhood that way, and then work with my agents on my team. Before
we wrap it up for today, let's hear funny investor story.
Oh, my goodness.
I know, put you on the spot.
Funny investor story.
Do you have a crazy one? Like anything happened recently? I know you've been out teaching a lot lately and been out of town.
I've been out training agents to kind of work with more investors and that kind of thing. But
do you? Here's a question. Maybe not funny story, but are you seeing more of a need? Like, what is the hot spot for investors? How about that? Like, what is like the investment town? Is it Kansas City? Is it Dallas? Is it Chicago? Like, is there a certain?
Let me tell you,
city that's like
there are. I'm getting more requests from investors in Texas.
Texas.
Texas. Any major city in Texas is where they want to be.
Okay.
So I see a lot happening in that market.
Okay.
I also have a huge interest from some lenders in North Carolina.
Okay.
So if there are agents who want to learn how to do the strategy of working with investors in North Carolina, Texas, even in Indiana, Indianapolis specifically, they have a huge interest in being there. So I work with a lot of different funders and different groups, and Kansas City. But of course, you guys, here it's a lot of, we don't have enough inventory. And so to me, it's always about creating the product. Like I'd rather create the product than kind of wait on the market to kind of give me the product.
Right.
Like,
Find your own solution.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't want a piece of the pie. I
want
the recipe.
Right. There you go.
I want a recipe to make it.
That's our next
myself.
show, Cooking with Tamika. Pies and such.
There you go.
Good. What a great show we've had today.
Cool.
Learned a lot about more. I always learn something from you every show, but it was nice to hear, the difference between the inventory and, being a fisherman in my ponds. So, But I want you to know you're always welcome to come visit my ponds.
Not in March.
Okay, not in March, yeah,
I'm
because
busy.
it's all about Tamika. Can you see this? TV25? I love it. Great job. Congratulations.
Thank you.
On
Thank
the
you so
cover
much.
girl. It's fantastic. And I'm sure there's an article in here that you talk about that's really good too. So make sure and pick this up.
No, just look at the pictures.
Yeah,
That's where
it's Tamika. Hi. Okay, so, this is Real Estate Matters with Tamika Bryant and Christy Porter on Smart Companies, Thinking Bigger Radio, and TV25. Have a great week.